Okay guys, welcome back to the Sevenfold Farm YouTube channel. Today it's going to be a little bit different. Instead of us kids doing a video, it's going to be our mom hosting this video. She's going to be showing you guys how to make homemade cheese from scratch, from raw milk from our aunt's cow. So we'll get right into that and show you guys how to do that.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Sevenfold Farm YouTube channel. The kids asked me to do a video on making cheese. So today we're going to make some cheddar cheese using some milk. It actually is really simple. A lot of people think that cheese has to be super difficult, but it's not that time consuming because the majority of your time spent making the cheese is actually hands off, where the cheese is just going to be sitting and doing its thing and working its magic, and it works into our schedule really well, so we enjoy making it, we enjoy eating it, and the price involved in making your own cheese versus buying it at the store cannot be matched. It is so much cheaper to make it. So I'm going to show you guys the minimal supplies that you need in order to make your own cheese at home. Obviously, what you're going to start with is some milk. This recipe for cheddar cheese calls for 2 gallons of milk, so we're going to use just the 2 gallons of the raw cow's milk. You're going to need some cheesecloth. I actually prefer to use tea towels. I can cut them to the size that I want. They stand up a little bit better than your cheesecloth does, because if you've ever used cheesecloth before, it kind of, the threads kind of move and stuff, and then it's a little more difficult to wash, and so I just really enjoy the tea towels more. You need a cheese press. Cheese presses can be super expensive. They can also be pretty reasonable. This one right here probably costs around $30, and it does the trick for me. I haven't had any issues with it. We have had some wonderful cheeses turn out using that, so I think if you're just getting started out, don't spend a lot of money on a cheese press. You can even make your own cheese presses. A lot of people will do some blocks of wood and some free weights, and they get really creative with it. So if that's you, then have at it, but I prefer to spend a little bit of money. You need a large stock pot. You're gonna need a thermometer. You're gonna need a slotted spoon of any sort. And then really the most important things that you'll need will be, for cheddar cheese, a mesophilic culture, and then also some rennet. Now there are different kinds of rennet out there. There's animal rennet, there's vegetable rennet, there's double strength rennet, and so you can just kind of pick your choice. There's also rennet in tablet form or rennet in liquid form. I've only ever used the liquid form, worked great, so not going to change it if I don't have any complaints. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we are just going to dump our 2 gallons of milk into our stock pot, and we're going to get it heated slowly to 86 degrees. I'll give it a good shake first to get all of that nice cream mixed in there, because that will make the cheese even better. All right, so we have our milk heated to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Takes about 30 minutes over medium heat. Again, very hands off. I just put it on the stovetop, turn the heat on, and I occasionally, when I'm walking by, will give it a little stir and then move on and do what it is I need to do. But now that it is heated, we're going to add 1/8 teaspoon of our mesophilic culture. And a little tip, if you do not want to purchase mesophilic culture, you can substitute buttermilk. Cultured buttermilk. They sell it in the grocery store in the refrigerated section right by where all of the milk is, where your heavy whipping cream, your half and half, your coffee creamers, all that sort of thing. It's in that little bitty tiny milk jug that's so cute that my kids like to drink out of if I save it and clean it out for them. But anyway, you can put 3/4 cup of cultured buttermilk in instead of your 1/8 teaspoon of mesophilic culture. You will still have to go ahead and buy rennet, because rennet is what makes it separate, your milk separate from the whey and eventually get to your cheese. But anyway, sometimes that's just more of a cost-effective way to make some cheese. So I'm going to go ahead and add my 1/8 teaspoon of mesophilic culture. I'm going to sprinkle it over the top. Just give it a little stir. And then I'm going to turn my heat off. I'll cover my cheese, set a timer for 30 minutes, let it just sit unattended for 30 minutes, maintaining that heat of 86 degrees, and then we'll come back and we'll do a little bit. Okay, so our milk has been sitting for 30 minutes at approximately 86 degrees after we put the mesophilic culture in. So now we're gonna add the rennet. We are going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of rennet, and we are going to mix that into a 1/4 cup of water. And then we're gonna add it to our milk. Again, the rennet is what causes it to separate the whey from the milk proteins. Because you can look here and you can see that the milk really just still looks like milk. It hasn't separated at all. It's still very liquid even after the culture has been in it. So now we're gonna dump in the rennet that is diluted in the water. We're gonna give it just a few good stirs to make sure that it gets mixed in thoroughly. And then guess what? We're gonna let it sit again for 30 minutes. So hands off, so easy to do. You don't have to stand here and stare at your cheese all day long. You can mix it, walk away, set your timer, mix it, walk away, set your timer. So we're gonna walk away from this for another 30 minutes and then we'll be back and you'll be able to see the break that happens after adding that. Now that our cheese has set for 30 more minutes after we added the rennet, I wanna show you here how you can see the definite change that has taken place and how it is set up more. You can see how it's not liquid anymore and that it cuts and you can pull it apart. It's not a complete solid, but it's also not a liquid. So once it gets to this point, we are going to just take our spoon and we are going to cut this into curds or into little cubes. I just take my spoon and I run it down this direction, and then I'm gonna go the other direction also, and just break it up into smaller pieces. Some people use a whisk and we'll put it down in there and we'll run it along because that'll put it into smaller pieces. There's actually a tool that you can purchase that actually cuts the cheese into the smaller curds. I have just found though that doing this method works fine for me. My cheese still turns out completely satisfactory. So I just go then slowly down and work my way deeper and deeper so that you get it cut at all the different angles. You do horizontal, you do vertical, do some diagonal, just whichever which way you possibly can to get it cut up more and not one block the way that it was after sitting for 30 minutes. And then after we do that, we're going to slowly, very, very slowly heat this back up to approximately 100 degrees. You want to do it as slow as possible, so I go on the lowest possible heat, and every once in a while we'll just come in and we'll give it a good stir again as it is heating back up to those 100 degrees. That really shouldn't take too long. Depending on how much your temperature has dropped while it's been resting for the 30 minutes. So just keep an eye on your temperature. This is probably the most hands-on really that you have to be with keeping an eye on that temperature to make sure that it doesn't get too hot. So then as you slowly stir it, as you're slowly heating it, after that is when it gets really fun because we're gonna drain off the whey, we're gonna put it in our cheese press, and then the magic really starts to happen. All right, so now we have heated everything to 100 degrees And then I've let it just sit without stirring it anymore. I let it sit for 10 minutes. And you can see here, again, the change that has happened. You can see that all of the whey is here on the top and all of the curds have settled down to the bottom. Now, this whey we're getting ready to drain off of our cheese, and I'm gonna show you that right here. I have my cheesecloth or my tea towel here lining my colander over another stock pot. And I do that because I like to save the whey. I know in the mayonnaise video that Brinkley did, she talked to you all about a healthy way to make mayonnaise. And that is to reserve your whey so that you can add it back into your mayonnaise a little bit at a time, and that helps it to be healthier because the whey really is like liquid gold. And so we like to save the whey. We do lots of different things with it. You can just discard it if you want to, but you can make ricotta cheese out of the whey. You can freeze it in ice cube trays, and we like to add it to smoothies. You can make whey lemonade. And so the possibilities are really just endless. It is worth it to save it. You can even, if you haven't decided what you want to do with it, you can put it in the refrigerator for a couple days until you do decide. And if you even have critters around your place, you can feed it to them a little bit at a time because it's really good for them as well. So what we're gonna do now is we are going to pour our cheese into this other stock pot through the colander, through the tea towel, and we're gonna let the whey drain off of our cheese curds for just a few minutes to get out as much of the whey as we can so that we can then put it in our cheese press. You can see all of those little curds coming out now. And that is why we cut it up the way that we did earlier, was so that it will come out in pieces and we'll be able to drain it. I'm overflowing. It's no fun if you're in the kitchen and you don't make a mess. I'm really good at making the messes. So I'm just lifting the tea towel a little bit to help that whey drain out. And I'm gonna let it sit here for, again, about another 10 minutes to finish getting a majority of the whey off of it. And then we're gonna add in some salt. All right, you can see after sitting for a few minutes, the whey has drained out. That looks like considerably less than what it looked like whenever I overflowed the colander. So now that most of the whey has drained out, we're gonna add 2.5 tablespoons of salt, and we're gonna just work that in with our hands, and then we get to put it in the cheese press. And this will also help to work out some more of the whey so that it's not a moist cheese. You don't want moist cheese because moist cheese will end up molding. All right, so the salt is mixed in, and then I just like to grab the 4 corners of my tea towel, gather them together, and then give it a squeeze and a twist some more so that we can, again, get that whey out. And as we press it in our cheese press, you'll notice that a lot of whey will come out there too, which is why I have a pan underneath my cheese press. That would be an even bigger mess in the kitchen for my kids to clean up. All right, I've squeezed out just about as much whey as I think I want to. There's really no right or wrong to do it, just so that it will fit in the cheese press. So now, while it's still warm, that's really the key, is that you don't want your cheese curds to get cold because then they're not going to press as easy. So while it's still warm, I'm going to start pushing it in my tea towel still, down into my cheese press, and then my extra pieces here, I just kind of fold over and press down in there, and then I put the rest of my cheese press pieces together. Now, we are going to press this several different times. We're going to start with a 15-minute press at about 23 pounds of pressure. Now, if you buy a cheese press online, it's going to give you a guide as to how many times you twist it in order to know how many pounds you are pressing it. If you are making your own cheese press, you'll just know that you want to put 23 pounds on there and that you're going to do it for 15 minutes. So we'll get that like that, and then I'm just going to do about 5 turns. And if you look here, you can see more of the way getting pressed out of the top in there and just slowly pushing it out. The reason you want to do 15 minutes at 23 pounds and then we'll flip our cheese and we'll do it again. The reason you want to do that and to flip it and to do the press slowly is because you don't want to press out too much of the proteins of the cheese. Otherwise, you're not going to have a compact cheese. It'll be crumbly. It'll be more likely to mold. But I haven't had any problem with that. It's just kind of taking it slow and not trying to rush the cheese. So we're going to set the timer for 15 minutes, walk away, and we'll be back. All right, so our cheese has been pressing for about 15 minutes. Now we're going to take it out of the press. We're going to flip it over, and then we're going to press it again. This time we're going to press it for 30 minutes at the same pressure, 23 pounds of pressure. And I promise we don't do this too many times. We'll flip it, I think, one more time, and then we're going to leave it in the press overnight, and then we get to take it out and let it dry. So you can see just after 15 minutes in the press, you can see how it's already starting to take shape of being in a block of cheese. So now I'll just redress it and put it back in the press for 30 minutes. All right, so we have let our cheese press all night long, and we are going to unveil it and see just how it turned out. So I will take it out of the cheese press and out of the cloth that we had it in, and hopefully we have just a glorious wheel of cheese. Now, I told you guys in the beginning of the video that this is cheddar cheese. You might be a little curious as to why it is not yellow like your store-bought cheddar cheese. That is because I choose to not add in the extra ingredient that really is just like a food coloring for cheese. I figure it doesn't change the flavor at all, and I'm just all about less is better. So let's unwrap our cheese here, and this one is looking actually kind of crumbly. You might know the one time that we make a video about making cheese, it doesn't turn out. I've seriously never had a wheel of cheese turn out like this before, so congratulations. You all get to see the ultimate fail. But that's part of it. You win some, you lose some, and this cheese will not go to waste. Even though it looks ugly, it'll still get eaten. So usually it does not come off this crumbly and this difficult. Usually my towel just comes right off nicely, but you can see here, this is not the most beautiful wheel of cheese. I am going to go ahead and put this on a plate to dry because it's going to continue to weep out a little more whey, probably over the next 3 to 4 days. It really just depends on the weather. The weather can dictate how fast it will dry, how slow it will dry. And once you see that there's no more weeping coming out of it and no more moisture on it, then that will tell you that you are good to either eat it, or you can go ahead and put it in a cooler in a fridge and let it start aging. They say that this cheddar is best if it ages for 2 months or longer. We have a really hard time waiting that long. Well, now, especially because this was kind of a fail. I mean, it's not a complete fail, but it sure isn't a pretty cheese like I was hoping to show you all. I am going to show you one that is already completed that I have had sitting in the cooler for about a month already. You can see the difference in the size, and like I was saying, this one is going to continue to weep and dry out some and get that moisture out of the inside of it, and you can see how much it will shrink down over those few days. So you end up with about a 1 pound wheel of cheese. But this is a cheddar. This is the exact same thing that I made here, and you can see it did not turn out nearly as sad looking as that one. But anyway, it can be done. It is easy, even though sometimes it turns out ugly. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and for the children, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, and have a blessed day.